Okay, so I'm probably going to do this a little bit page by page. That way, you know, if there's some parts that you're not struggling with, then you can just go to the video of your choice. I'm going to start off just right here at the beginning and see, maybe we'll do the first page front and back. So looking at this, we've got Renee is spending money from her savings account. So I want you to think about that. I've got money in my account, and over a certain number of weeks, I spend money each week. The thing you may not know about a savings account is you can only make so many withdrawals. So this actually is a discrete scenario. It's not like using a card where she's continuously spending it. She's pulling out chunks of money. So it tells you to find the slope. So I'm going to go from one point to another. Going from 45 down to 25, that was down 20, right? And then I went from here over to there, which was 2 weeks. So that would give me negative 20 over 2. So I'm at a slope of negative 10, okay? The next thing it's talking about is what is the meaning of the slope? Okay, well, you'll notice the account balance is changing each week. So when I have negative 10, that's the same thing as having negative 10 over 1. So in other words, each week, the balance, each week, sorry. I said it, I didn't write it. The balance is decreasing by $10. Okay? Next thing it says is to find the y-intercept. Well, if I look, it's going to go up what? It's going over 2 and up 4, which would be the same thing as if we went like this. Do you agree? So in other words, I could say up 2, back 1. So up 2, back 1. Well, that would get me to 55. So my y-intercept is at 55. So at time 0, she had $55 in the bank. I could have also done, written the equation for this, which I believe we're going to have to do anyway at some point. Anyway, the equation would be y equals negative 10. And then remember, all you have to do is plug in a point. So we could plug in this point right here, x minus 5 plus 5. And then to find out where it would be, all we got to do is plug in 0 for x. Right? So then if I do that, I get negative 10, and this would be negative 5 plus 5. Negative 5 times 10 gives me 50. 50 plus 5 is 55. So you could have also done it just by creating the equation and plugging in 0. Either way would have worked. Let's see. Then it says, what does this situation mean? What does this mean for the situation? Oh, well, I just said that. I'm kind of jumping the gun there. At time 0, in other words, at the beginning, she had $55. Yes, Renee, okay. I was wondering. I said she. Based upon the graph, is it continuous or discrete? Well, based upon the graph, it's discrete. And once again, as I talked to you about a savings account, you typically take amounts out in an increment. You're not able to, there's no card where you can use it like a checking account. Is this a function or not? This is that opportunity. Since it's a graph, you can look for the vertical line test, and you're looking for where you would have one point on top of another. Like this scenario wouldn't pass the vertical line test, so it would not be a function. But in our case, it, yes, does pass the vertical line test because it will never touch more than one point at a time. Independent and dependent. Y always depends on X, so Y is the account balance, and X is the number of weeks. Write the equation to model the situation. I believe we did that. Y equals, my slope is negative 10. Now that you know the y-intercept, you could say x equals 10 plus 55. X equals negative 10x plus 55. Use your equation to determine how many weeks until Renee's account is empty. Notice it gets really close, doesn't it? So when it'll be empty will be when y equals 0. So if I use my equation, I got y equals negative 10x plus 55. Well, if y equals 0, I'll plug in 0 for y. Then to solve this, I'm going to subtract 55 from both sides, which will give me Negative 55 equals negative 10x. I'm going to divide both sides by negative 10. When I do, I'll end up with negative 55 over negative 10, which of course is going to end up giving me x equals 5.5. So you're talking about at 5.5 weeks. Since based on the graph, everything appears to be a whole number, you could see this written 5.5 weeks. Well, that's certainly possible because I could go in the middle of the week. But if it were multiple choice, another possibility that you might look for is at week 6 is when it would be actually empty. Okay? So just pay attention to what the question's asking. What is f of 4? Remember, we always write this f of x. So if inside of here is 4, that means x equals 4. So I'll just go over to my graph and I'll look at what 4 would equal. Well, if I did my rise over run, I'd have a point right here. Once again, I could simply use my equation and plug 4 into it. I just as soon use my graph, and that's $15. Okay? If I were to use my equation, I'll go ahead and do that for you as well. That would be negative 10 times 4 weeks plus 55. So that would give me negative 40 plus 55, which would give me my $15. Then it says, what's f of 5? Well, this means x equals 5. So I go over here to 5, and at the 5th week, I've got $5. What is the domain of this function? These are great places to write notes. Domain is x when the range is y. In other words, they told you y equals negative 2, y equals 0, and y equals 4. So all we have to do is plug that in. And remember, f of x is the exact same thing as y. So if I plug it in, I get negative 2 equals 2x plus 6. Subtract 6 from both sides. Divide by 2, and I get negative 4 as one of my answers. Then if I plug in 0, I got 0 equals 2x plus 6. Subtract 6 from both sides. Divide by 2, and I get negative 3. There's another answer. Last scenario would be 4. If y is 4, I got 2x plus 6, subtract 6 from both sides, and I get x equals negative 1. So if I were to list this, remember when you list a domain and range, you always list them in a set from least to greatest. So I would start here at negative 4, comma, negative 3, comma, negative 1. And this would be the domain. Oops, this is not the range, this is the domain. Sorry, I was given the range. So when writing your domain and range, you always list them, and set, you always list them from least to greatest. Then we got another scenario, find the length and width of a rectangle with a perimeter of 98. Okay, so let's remember what perimeter is. Perimeter on a rectangle is where you go all the way around. So in other words, perimeter equals, well, I got 2 L's, oops, 2 L's plus 2 W's, okay? So that means this length right here is 4x plus 3, this is x plus 1. So I'm looking at, I've got 98, which is my perimeter, equals 2 times this 4x plus 3, and 2 times this x plus 1. So then if I start working this out, I get 2 times 4x is 8x, 2 times 3 is 6, 2 times x is 2x, and 2 times 1 is 2. Now, of course, you probably could have done this another way. As a matter of fact, when we went over it in class, we did it another way. Subtract the 8 gets me to 90 equals 10x, so x actually equals 9. This would be that moment when we think we're done. But more than likely, it's in this case, it's asking for the length and width. And if this were multiple choice, I can promise you this x equals 9 would be an answer in your multiple choice. To actually find the length and width, you're going to have to plug it in. So that would be 4 times 9 plus 3. Well, 4 times 9 is 36, plus 3 is 39. So then the other side, we've got 9 plus 1 equals 10. So you've got a length and width of 10 and 39. Then we got the cost of movie tickets varies directly with the number of tickets purchased. Remember, varies directly. Varies directly means your slope equals y over x, okay? One ticket cost. And also remember the cost of movie tickets, the cost varies directly, and that is y with x, the number of tickets. So one ticket costs $7.50, okay? So we got $7.50 for a cost, and then we got our number of tickets is 1. So that would mean what? My slope for this would be y over x. Well, y is $7.50 over 1. So my direct variation equation, remembering this goes to the origin, is 750x. There will be no b value because it goes to the origin where y is 0. Now they want to know, okay, well, what if you bought $37.50? Well, that would be a y value, so I do 37.50 equals 750x. Then I divide both sides by 750, and I get x equals 5. So my solution to this would be 5 tickets will cost $37.50. Let's see. The owner of a candle store purchased his candles from the local distributor. The graph shows the relationship between N, the number of candles, and C, the cost of the candles. Okay? So the cost depends upon the number of candles. How much will 120 candles cost? Well, let's see. This is going by tens, which means 120 is going to be right up here, correct? Oh, no, I'm doing this wrong. Sorry. 120 candles is going to be right here. If I simply take this graph and extend it, you can go 120 up right here. It'll cost $60. Okay? And you'll find, when you take your final exam, make sure you have a ruler because that's always a handy tool to have. But why do a bunch of math if you can just extend the line? Corinne has a $15 gift card to Starbucks. Each coffee costs $3.50. So $15, notice it tells us to write the inequality. $15 is that answer, that total we talk about. In this case, $15 is the maximum, which means our inequality needs to have the sign of the maximum side facing the $15. She's willing to spend all her $15, so it would be equal to it, correct? And then we have every single coffee that she buys is going to cost $3.50. I don't know why anybody would spend $3.50 on coffee. That's got to be good coffee, and I don't think there is good coffee. Anyway, write a reasonable domain and range for this situation. Notice they didn't tell you if this is discrete or continuous. You always have to decide that. And so when you're looking at this, I want you to think about money. Money is continuous. But then I want you to think about coffee. Well, can you go in and buy half a cup of coffee? No, you either buy the coffee or you don't. So let's take it one at a time. If I buy no coffee, okay, 0 coffee, that means 3.5 times 0 is less than or equal to 15, correct? 0 is less than or equal to 15. How much do I still have on my card? If I spend nothing off the card, I've still got $15, okay? Then you have, well, what if she buys 1 cup of coffee? Well, if she buys 1 cup of coffee, it would be 15 minus 350, wouldn't it? Which would leave her with $11.50. Notice how I'm writing this right side backwards? The reason I am is because you have to put it in order, right, from least to greatest. Well, she could buy 2 cups of coffee. If she buys 2 cups of coffee, she'll be at $8. She could buy 3 cups of coffee. If she buys 3 cups of coffee, then she's going to be at $4.50. She could buy 4 cups of coffee. And if she buys 4 cups of coffee, then she's going to be down to $1. Here's where you have a problem. She can't buy any more coffee. We don't know what anything else costs, so at this point, she's going to have $1 left on her gift card. Is this discrete or continuous? It's discrete. As we just discussed, cannot buy half of a coffee cup. So the coffee is discrete. You cannot buy half a cup. They're not going to sell it to you that way. You know that. It's like my half a candy bar story. The cost of shipping a package overnight from San Antonio to Dallas is $5.50. No matter what, you got to pay $5.50, plus every ounce is going to be 85 cents. The dependent, the cost is going to depend upon the ounces. So how many ounces the package is going to be. If I got a really heavy package, it's going to cost more. So once again, why the cost depends on the number of ounces. The rate of change, well, it's changing at this rate, 85 cents per ounce. The constant in the equation. This is my constant. No matter what, I'm paying $5.50. Then it says if the shipping company were to increase the cost, and just so you know what this would look like, it'd look like y equals 0.85 plus 5.5, okay? Oh, forgot my x. Whew. It's Friday. If the shipping company were to increase the cost per ounce from 85 cents to $1.10, how much more would they have to pay for a 5-ounce package? Well, there's multiple ways to do this. You could figure out if I bought with the old way a 5-ounce package, it would cost me 5 ounces times 85 cents plus, or times 0.85 plus 5.50. Or you could simply say, well, the difference between 85 cents and $1.10. Okay, I'm out. Can't write. The difference between $1.10 and 85 cents would be what? We got 25 cents? So we got a quarter's difference, right? So then for each ounce, I'm going to pay an additional quarter, correct? So that means I'm going to have a 5-ounce package, so 25 cents times 5, well, doesn't that make $1.25 more that I'm going to have to pay? In this case, our slope got bigger, correct? If the slope gets bigger, your graph will get steeper. Last one on this page. To calculate C, the cost for repair, a mechanic uses the function blah, 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 where 35 is the mechanic's hourly rate. Okay, so that means there's your 35 right there. H is the number of hours, so here's your hours, his hours. P is the cost of the parts, so this is parts. And if the parts for the repair, needed, if the parts for the repair cost $125, so that means P equals 125, and the total bill, well, this is the total bill right here, so C equals 405. How long did it take him to make the repair? So let's fill all this in. C equals 405. 35, how long? H is what I don't know. And then we got 125 for the parts. So then you take this and you simplify. You get down to subtract 125 from both sides. You got 280 equals 35H. Then divide both sides by 35 and you get 8 hours. So it takes 8 hours to make the repair. The next page will be posted after this one.